Politics is tremendously fun. It's for young people. It's for people who have the capacity to work all night and then work all night again the next night and the night after that. The Little Rock campaign for Clinton was considered very aggressive and very state-of-the-art for the Democrats, who were used to getting cuffed around in these elections. And we prided ourselves on responding to charges in the first news cycle, and that was considered a very big deal. But what that means was within 24 hours. Now, that was before the internet. It was really before there were a lot of cable channels. It was before Blackberries. If someone waited 24 hours to respond to a charge or a crisis, they would be committing political malpractice. But back then, it was considered very, very state-of-the-art. You know, campaigns are always full of young people, and even White Houses are always full of young people. What was more unusual for Clinton was there weren't as many old hands around. So whoever wins next time should pay some close attention to that. I didn't train to be a speechwriter, and I didn't start as a speechwriter on Clinton's campaign. I was a lawyer, I was a writer who'd written books, I had a policy background. And that's really the best training to be a presidential speechwriter. Clinton made me chief speechwriter not because of my liquid prose. I mean, I'm sure I had to be good enough, and I'm sure I was, but because he thought I understood his policies. And so I worked on the campaign, and my writing caught his eye. He had me work on the first inaugural and State of the Union address, but then I went and did other things. I was in policy aide in charge of campaign finance reform for 2 years, and then became head speechwriter during one of these various power struggles, palace intrigue. But it was, when a president speaks, it's not about the words, it's not about them sounding good, it's about the policy. And the presidential speeches are where presidential policy and personality and politics all come together. And that's part of what made it fun and a great thing to be part of at a young age. Well, I was always proud to work on the issues that I cared about the most. So, for example, when I had drawn up policies on campaign finance and other reforms, and then got to write the speech for the president announcing the policies, that kind of thing's pretty cool. I always enjoyed working on the State of the Union addresses. And with Clinton, I did 4 of them as the chief speechwriter. And with Clinton, those were his big moment, as you recall, every year. They were very long. And he really would dive in, and he would scrub his schedule and focus on that for a month before the speech. It would go through 20, 25 drafts, endless consultations with policy aides, with cabinet secretaries, with old friends of the president from college and everything else, because that was where he laid out his program for the year. And of course, he got to be very, very good at it. And the public really liked hearing from him during those State of the Unions. They would go on, and the pundits on TV would say, "Oh my gosh, another terrible, disastrous speech from Bill Clinton. It never would end." And then they would learn that the polls showed, first of all, that it was very popular, and second, that his TV ratings went up the longer he talked. The public had a very great thirst to hear directly from their elected leaders about things that mattered to them. So, you know, with those State of the Unions, the one that was most memorable for reasons good and bad was the one in 1998, which was a week after the world learned, and I learned, about Monica Lewinsky. And you can imagine it was a very crazy way to write a speech, driving into work, having the car surrounded by camera crews to see if I was anybody, and then looking disappointed and walking away when I wasn't, and the people on TV saying, well, he's going to resign, and the only question is when, and then all kinds of speculation, again, on the cable shows about what was in the speech draft, and I knew what I had in my draft, but, you know, there were all kinds of rumors, and through it all, Clinton, who obviously had done something he shouldn't have done, and was obviously under a great deal of pressure, focusing in on the work at hand, which was doing this speech and the policies, and it was quite something to see. And then here he was at the lowest point of his public credibility, of his personal credibility, and he got up and said, this was just when the budget had turned into a surplus, which seems like a long time ago now. He got up and said, what should we do? And the Republicans in Congress wanted to as we saw it, spend the surplus on a tax cut. He said, what should we do with our new surplus? I have a simple four-word answer: save Social Security first. And when he did that, the Democrats in Congress stood up and applauded, and they were pretty much applauding anything he said at that point. And Gingrich, who was the Speaker of the House, was sitting right behind him. And you could see he was thinking about it, and then he decided he had better stand up and applaud. And the Republicans were all looking at Gingrich, and then they stood up and applauded. And at that precise moment, $1 trillion in the budget shifted from the column marked tax cuts to the column marked Social Security. That was because of the power of the bully pulpit. It was because Clinton was very good at using it. And it was even at his lowest personal moment, he could still command the country by making a strong argument. So that was hard to top for drama, for a speechwriter.